Scarborough Rouge Park is really where nature meets the city, and where else can you live and you can have a deer walk down your street.
I think that's very important, is to feel like you're a part of something, and when you feel like you're a part of a community, you feel like you belong, and it's just like amazing feeling to have.
There was absolutely nothing from here. Port Egan was nothing but a dirt road, and Lawson Road there was nothing.
I showed up for the first meeting at Charlottetown Junior Public School, and there was one leader and 25 little kids running around, and I went, oh my goodness, boy, could they use some help.
My family, the Braithwaite, were the first Black family to reside in Highland Creek.
I remember as a little girl, my mom used to deliver the CCRA to the homes in the neighborhood.
I didn't know that.
But this city person was not going to allow us into this meeting. And finally, I stood up and I said, if you're not going to let us and take us into that meeting, we'll go find a meeting.
My very first involvement was that I felt that I needed to have a tree in front of my house, so I went and knocked on neighbors' doors and said, if I make the arrangements, will you pay the $10 to have a tree planted in front of your house?
Centennial's not about being boastful or trying to stand out. It's almost, let's do what's right for the people that live here and make the community work for us instead of telling our story outside.
The whole purpose of this is to bring people together, to bring the community together for a good cause. You know, yes, you want to advocate, you want to work with the political parties, all levels of government when it comes to, you know, something really serious that's going on in the community that we do need to address. But other than that, you know, we're very fortunate in that this community is very livable, very likable. People love being here, and we just, you know what, we just communicate well, and that's what I want the CCRA to continue to do, is communicate well.
Well, we're a tightly knit group in this community. And when there's an issue comes up, the CCRA is turned to.
There were many stories, but the one that really got our hearts were the folks living at the Tony Stacey Center. And we all felt so helpless at the time. We were all home. We couldn't get together in a meeting room. We didn't know how to really make something good of a bad situation, and we were all horrified about what was happening at the long-term care. So we, over video meetings, we decided, you know what we're going to do is we're going to help the Tony Stacey Center out. We're going to help those residents, and we're going to try and raise funds, and we're going to do the best we can, and we're going to cheer them up. And what we did was we put everything out to the community, and we said, CCRA is willing to match your donations for the Tony Stacey Center up to $10,000, and we're going to give it to them for whatever they feel they need the money for to get them through this really horrible time. And the community responded incredibly. I mean, it was just absolutely wonderful. Oh my goodness, like, before you know it, we're like, yeah, we're matching, that's 10,000. So now 20,000, and we exceeded that. So we ended up writing a check to the Tony Stacey Center for over $22,000. And that money they chose to put toward point of care systems for the long-term care centers. And on top of that, we put together a car parade, and everybody got in their cars. All kinds of people from all over Centennial and maybe even West Rouge too, jumped in their cars, decorated their cars, had balloons, had messages on the outside of their cars, opened their windows, honked their horns, and we all paraded through the community, and the end point being the Tony Stacey Center, and we drove right through that whole circular drive. And some of the residents that could be outside were out there. It was a beautiful day. The staff were out there with their gowns and their masks on. I mean, I was almost in tears. I kid you not, just driving through And looking at the smiles on their faces and the thank yous that they had, it was just an incredible feeling to be able to give. And the community really came together. And that's my fondest memory of something so beautiful, really. And we just felt so proud that we could make it happen.
How our residents really support our businesses. It was really very evident during COVID, where people were saying, we got to help our local business, Rouge Restaurant, or, Black Dog, or this cupcake place down the street. Or there's a lot of, community that's sharing on social media, especially, and promoting the businesses that are here. And it's very interesting. There's a couple of businesses that are young people who went to school with my kids that, Jack and Jill, bakery, and that's 2 students that went to Mowat. So there's a lot of interesting things and connections with people. So there's a keenness to support local companies. I mean, for me, it's easier just shop locally. Hop on your bike, walk down, get your stuff, walk back. Because it's a lovely walkable community.
On the waterfront, I do a lot of things. I think my favorite activity is rollerblading. I love to rollerblade with my dad. We used to go every morning during the pandemic when everything was closed. We would just come down here and rollerblade. I also like to go for bike rides with my friends and go for walks with my mom and just meet with my friends here after school. Sometimes we would just meet and play cards or hang out by the waterfront, by the water. It's so pretty.
And Watson had the farm up there. He was good. And the only other people that lived here was a nice colored family, Braithwaites, that lived up at the corner there near the store. That store wasn't a store either at the time.
My mother actually started out writing Black history in the newspaper, Contrast and Share newspaper. Because initially, my brother came home and he was probably in, grade 6 or something. And he came home and he said, I don't know much about Black settlers and Black history and stuff. And she said, well, I'm going to do some research and I'm going to put some files together so that you will know about the settlers and different things. So that's initially how she started becoming a Black historian.
I'm Casey.
I'm Christine, and this is our family.
I'm Mom. I'm Charlotte.
And this is
Isabel. You guys want to go play? Yeah. Off you go.
I was fortunate enough that my parents moved into this community when I was 2 years old, and I've had nothing but fond memories. It feels like you're in a small town but in a big city, which is such a wonderful feeling. We have so many community events going on that we've always been involved with. We love this community. So when I grew up and became an adult, it was really important to me to come back here and settle here and have a family because I had such fond memories that I wanted to grow and raise my family here.
This community has an amazing ability to come together and advocate for really good environmental policy. And I think the earliest example of that is the waterfront. But our community is also involved heavily in the Rouge and Rouge Park and ensuring that that is, really a beautiful place for community to continue to enjoy and for nature to thrive. But also, there's been a long legacy of advocacy with the Highland Creek Water Treatment Plant, and recognizing that it is a really important piece of infrastructure, and the community was very involved in the environmental assessments for the plant. The recommendation was going to be for trucking of organics through the community, and the community was very clear that that was not an acceptable choice. And as a result, the study was shelved, and it was started and it was done again. And the recommendation was to continue with an upgraded fluidized bed incinerator, and the community, was really pleased with that outcome. And the work is underway, and I think it'll be great that we'll have that new technology in place soon. And really, it was that sustained effort of community advocacy, showing up at City Hall, meeting with councillors, and so that was before my time on the CCRA, but I was there for the end of it, and it was really great to see how everybody came together and eventually got the vote that they wanted at City Hall.
I think that perhaps the one project that brought the community together more than any other was the restoration of the Johns Manville property. We had hundreds of people coming out to meetings, to protests, to really get involved in it, because quite honestly, people were frightened. Not of the new development, which was a rumor going around that the old neighbors didn't want new neighbors moving in. It was the old neighbors desperately wanted to make sure that that asbestos property was cleaned properly for the old neighbors and for those moving in. Yes, we didn't want the developers just moving in and building houses because it wouldn't have been safe. That was I think, probably one of the biggest challenges over the last 20 years.
They had to wash the trucks when they left the site. It was a big deal. And we employed environmental lawyers on Bay Street.
They didn't realize what they were dealing with, I don't think, because the Centennial Community Association was very strong. And let's face it, they knew this community better than anybody at City Hall or any of those developers knew it.
And when we saw the house on Charlottetown Boulevard that we ended up buying, I really loved it. The street was quite empty. There were only 2 lots of people still living on there. And this is relevant, there were no trees on the street. When I talked to people about the planting of the trees, which was the first activity, I felt that we were really welcomed in that kind of way. And almost immediately we became aware that there was a community association, which was something new to us, because in England where we lived, even though it was in a suburban area, there were no such things. And so we thought that that was such a nice thing to become involved with.
I used to walk that 2 miles every night and every morning to go to work. I'd go up, catch the Grey Coach bus, take me down to church in Malure, work all day, and I'd get out. And then at nighttime when I come home, well, my husband was on the fire department then, but when he was at work, I used to have to walk. When I wasn't at work, he would come and pick me up at the corner because he worked at the fire hall. There used to be a fire hall on Highland Creek there on Moorish, but other than that, I can't say too much else.
We have Sparks and Embers meeting at Charlottetown. There has been a Brownie, now Ember unit at that school since 1969. So almost since the school opened, we have had a strong presence in the community, which is huge. And as I say, I've been part of it for 12 years. And then Guides meet just outside of the Centennial community at William G. Davis. And that's where I spend most of my time. But I'm involved in cookies and money for the entire guiding community in this area.
Well, we know across the city volunteering is at an all-time low following the pandemic. So it's really great to see that in Centennial there are so many great opportunities for volunteers, and the CCRA always makes opportunities available for students in particular, and they can get hours helping out at events. What a fun way to really help out and get your community hours by serving hot chocolate and helping out at a community event, but also delivering the newspaper.
Opportunities in the community provide volunteer hours for certain things. I deliver newspapers, the CCRA, the local newspaper, and through that I get 10 volunteer hours for every year, and that is helpful when I applied for scholarships, and it's also you need 40 hours to graduate high school, so that also helps you get there. And all the events within the community and the school events and festivals, as well as the Port Union Waterfront Festival, have volunteer opportunities, so it's really awesome to volunteer. And just even without the volunteer hours, it's a great opportunity to connect with the community and everyone that's a part of it. but it does, the volunteer hours are a great thing to help people graduate and get scholarships and things like that.
And yet, the developers were trying to tell us, no, the asbestos isn't there, there's only a little tiny bit. But we had written statements from people who'd worked there and had actually dug those holes and buried that poison. We knew it was there. But as I say, our main aim was firstly to make sure that the remediation took place in accordance with the Ministry of Environment guidelines. And secondly, to ensure that people moving into this neighborhood would have a safe place to live. But that really brought the community together.
The Legion was there, and I used to go in there. Ken, if he was home, he'd wait for me in the Legion was a dirt floor. And when they put their beer, they had them in wash buckets. There weren't even fridges. They were in wash buckets with ice with their beer in it. He'd sit in there and have a beer and wait until I come off the Great Coach bus, and then he'd drive me home.
Through guys, I hope to continue to foster this idea of getting out of the house, getting out from behind the computer, from engaging with each other in small, meaningful ways on a regular basis. Not just, hey, on a text, but there's no phones in a guide meeting. There is no technology. To the extent that we can make that happen, we don't have that. We get outside. We spend a lot of time outside, and it's my favorite part. We take the kids out camping 2 to 3, sometimes 4 times a year. We get them out. We also go for hikes because, my goodness, what a beautiful community we live in to do that.
First memory I can think of would have been when my brothers used to play. They're in their 30s now, so that would have been like 20 years ago or so. And I would have just been a kid, but my dad actually used to coach for them and everything. So I remember as a kid always going to the fields, just playing on the chairs, everything, while my brothers were doing their games, their practices and everything. Honestly, one of the biggest things for me that drives me to be wanting to be more involved is seeing how the kids progress and kind of growing with it. So some of these kids that we have now, I've been coaching since like 2021, and to see them every year getting older, getting better, progressing with it, falling in love with the sport and everything, it's really rewarding to see that as a coach.
Self-regulation. There's a lot of opportunities in soccer to get frustrated, to get a lot of strong feelings, and I think something that the kids can take away from playing here is learning how to channel that through sport or through whatever other means they might have in their other parts of their lives. This is their community, so it makes them feel more connected to their neighborhood. They make friends in the neighborhood, they see friends from school. So I feel like it provides a belonging type of identity, like this is their home and we are here for them as a club.
Congratulations CCRA on your 75th anniversary. I hope for you guys to have a great time. Thank you guys for being such a great community and welcoming to everyone around.
We have a newsletter 10 times a year, and that goes into every household. Whether you're a member or not, you get a copy of that. And that includes information about the resources that are in the community, about the schools, but also about the people who live here. And some of the most interesting things is when we hear about somebody who has gone to some extraordinary community to visit, or on a particular holiday, or the kids who win awards at the high school. And that really makes you feel that you are connected, even if you yourself are not necessarily directly involved in the work of the community association. And I think that it makes it a very special community.
Ken and I they finally convinced us to go into being the CCRA, canvassing for people. And I have somewhere here, I've got a list, because we canvass from number 2 highway down to the lake, getting all these people that paid money towards the CCRA. I do have a name of all the original people that we got the money from and to pay the CCRA, and we gave it to Bill Dempsey. And Bill was good to us. When he had any problems, he'd take Ken and I when we were off, we'd go up to City Hall, and he'd be complaining, and we were his backup. But he was a real nice man. He was really a nice man. And Bill was our spokesperson, and he did all the speaking for us. But other than that, I can't say too much else.
The Bill Dempsey story, well, it was very interesting because when I was running for election as president, he was no longer on the executive as an active member, but he did come to the meeting because there were some concerns about, do we really want a woman president? And Bill Dempsey was very forthcoming in supporting, not necessarily me personally, although he did know me personally, but just the fact that the time was right for a woman president. And since then we have had many female presidents, and I think that it's not that female presidents are better or worse, it is just that it is part of the community. So that was really interesting.
I found too with the establishment of the national park and the promotion of the waterfront, we get a lot of people using the amenities around here that I didn't find happen so much in the past. So the secret's out about the neighborhood, but it's a good thing because we end up meeting a lot of people just going down to the waterfront or attending the different festivals. Like, I can't remember which festival it was, or not a festival, but just different community organizations come down and they'll use the waterfront for their own gatherings and everything. And you end up just bumping into people and having conversations with people that you otherwise wouldn't have met. So it's really good that way to have the diversity of the city, showcased in our community.
The reason we want our businesses here is they provide employment opportunities, they provide taxes to help keep our roads and our services together. But at the same time, it just makes a complete community because, you live here, you work here, you're an entrepreneur, you invent here, you're creative here. All of those aspects are part of a complete community. And if, they do feed on each other. You could not have a complete community if you don't have employment here. And if you don't have, it's like not having any housing or, parks or roads. It's just a missing link, but a critical one. So helping support our businesses and having our youth to be a feeder system kind of thing, it just keeps going. It's an evolutionary process in a way, but I don't think evolutionary is the correct word. I would just say it's more about creating a complete community that has all of the aspects that make it successful. And success means longevity. And longevity means it's going to be around for a while because, people are going to stay because, there is an opportunity here. I want to be where the opportunities are. I want to be where the housing is lovely for my family. I want to be where the good schools are. I want to be where I can have a job or my kids can get a part-time job. So all of those aspects come together to create a great place. And those are important. And our local business pieces are key to that, along with good quality housing and good city services, but more importantly, the opportunities for each of us to come together and make a difference.
I walk 2 miles to school in the morning, 2 miles at lunchtime to home, 2 miles back, and 2 miles back. The kids today, as I say, the parents, you look out there. I was there yesterday looking, and there's a lineup of cars. You couldn't see the school for cars. They were just parked, right, one behind the other, waiting for their kids to come out of school. And I'm thinking, can't they walk? They got 2 legs like everybody else. But no, that's my opinion. But then what do I know?
I hope that one day they'll be able to grow up and raise their family in this community because it is a really special place.
I think the only thing I would emphasize is that the CCRA is you. It's you, it's me, it's your neighbors, it's everybody around you. And unless we have your support and their support, it wouldn't exist. So it is vital that people stay involved. That's my main message. Stay involved. It's your home. It's where you live. Keep fighting for it. Keep supporting it and keep enjoying it.
What makes our Centennial community unique and like different from other communities, I think, is that we're very like close and we're very tight. And I think a lot of community members know each other, and we're almost like a family here. And I often like run into so many people that I'll know, and we're very friendly here. And whenever I see someone I know, we'll say hi and stop and chat. And it's like almost on a daily that you go to the grocery store and you'll see someone you know, or you'll just be out on a walk and and it's just like a whole like web of all these beautiful like connections and friendships and things, and it's just so nice and so homey here, and I really love that aspect of the Centennial community.
The message that I would give to younger people who are wondering about whether there is a role for them or whether it is appropriate for them to be involved in the community association or community activities is to say to them that absolutely, that this is a community that welcomes people from 10 to 100 and provides an opportunity for people to feel that they can really participate and their participation is appreciated and valued.
But we used to have good times, as I say, once they built the upstairs in the old Legion, and they used to have the dances, we had more fun than, well, we did, we had a lot of fun. We all knew each other, and we were all like, it was one great big happy family.
The Centennial Community Association has just been such a real steadfast presence in our community for 75 years. And what impresses me so much is their ability to continually bring in the next generation of volunteers. And so it's great at their meetings to see that the youth are coming out to volunteer, that those events are continuing. And if we have Winterfest and the Port Union Waterfront Festival in another 75 years, that is going to be absolutely incredible and wonderful.
Letting people know what we have accomplished over 75 years of being an association in this community, it really does make this community, it puts it on the map, really. I mean, I don't know how else to express it, but the community is so important. And if you can't uphold a milestone, then you don't really have, we really want to push the milestones to our residents. Hey, it's 75 this year. Hey, in 5 years it's going to be 80. What are we going to do then? 90, 100. I mean, if we don't, as an association, if we don't promote and blow our own horn, then it's not going to happen, because people will just continue to lead their lives, right? We need to remind people, and we do that every month with our newspaper, with our website, with our social media. We're reminding people that, hey, there's an association here and we're keeping track of all the things that we're doing for you and all the things that you can do for us. So let's celebrate these important years. So I hope that it will be a fond memory in that regard, that they know that we're not ignoring progress. We're not ignoring what's going on in this community right now, right today. Like, we're marking everything. So we want the residents to be a part of that. It's really important.
What else can I tell you?